today's video we are going to take a look at a couple of folders, or well 8 folders made by Reate. This is the K series, but excluding the K2. The K2 seems to be quite hard to get your hands on right now. Not quite sure why, but I am fairly sure it's not been discontinued. But that it's just some production stop or something like that. But we do have one K1 in here, we have a couple of K3s and a couple of K4s. I will say that the K2 is quite different in its design compared to these others that do share a couple of elements. But anyways, we're gonna do some unboxing, or well, not really unboxing, because the boxes, well, there are no boxes here, right? I've taken these pouches out of the boxes. But we can still take a look at some of the, what you get in these different pouches here. So let's do a unpouching of sorts, I will say. I'm actually not quite sure which knife is in which pouch, so well, it doesn't really matter. We have a few different kind of designs here for these pouches. Some you open up like this. Others are, well, you open all of these 6 up like that. Then we have these 2, one smaller sized and one kind of larger size, which opens up with a regular zipper like this. So we can start with these. Let's see. So what do we have here? We have some washers and some screws, blue screws. We have a piece of cloth. We have a small, what do you call this? A small bag for the folder. And we have this patch here, Reate knives patch. And then we have, of course, the knife itself. So what we have here is the K4. Yeah, let's take, do we need to open up all these knives? So can I just open these up off screen and just put the knives here, perhaps? Because you will, with every, regardless if you go with this smaller size pouch here or if you go with this one, you're gonna have, aside from the knife, you're gonna have pretty much the exact same contents. It's gonna be, screws, washers, this little cloth bag piece here. Gonna have some cloth to wipe the knife down, and well, in some cases at least, there are gonna be these patches. Maybe, yeah. Well, this seems to be the only part that can sometimes differ if you get it or not. Probably not a deal breaker for most people. Definitely not for me personally. But I'm gonna do like this. I'm gonna open up all the knives off screen here and just have them placed here on the table so we can take a closer look in a more organized way than this. So that's what I'm gonna do in a few seconds. Here we have all the models out of their respective pouches. We have the K1, we have the K3, and we have the K4. So this is going to be like a quick overview of sorts. I'm not going to go into a lot of details here. But I wanted at least to start, by showing the knives like this. It is kind of difficult, to get materials to, show in the best way here. Especially when we have, all the knives on the table like this. It's easier when you have, one knife to look at and show different angles, etc. So that is also what we're gonna do, but I wanted at least to start by letting you guys see that these are the models and the configurations that will be shown here. There are also some different types of steel, not only the Dama steel and non-Dama steel, because there are also like M390, there are CTS 204P, RWL 34, etc. So it is, some of the steels are easier to see, others, well, you can't really see. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that soon. But here is the overview. And after this overview, I'm gonna put the knives aside and speak a little bit about each respective model. So let's go, in some sort of chronological order with the K1, then the K3, and then the K4. That is how we are gonna do it. So we're gonna put these knives to the side here of the table. Keep only the K1 to begin with. And I think we're gonna zoom in a little bit here. That is what we're gonna do. So I decided to change the camera angle a bit so that we can get the best possible view of this very nicely made folder, as always with folders made by Reate. So this is the K1. This version is in M390 steel with bronze anodized titanium and carbon fiber inlays. There are a few different varieties of this model. You can get it in blue anodization, you can get it in typical gray titanium, you can get it with Mokutai inlays, you can probably get it with Dama steel as well. There might be some varieties or configurations that I have failed to mention. And as always, not all configurations are always readily available. When I decided I wanted to go with this K1, I could only choose between the blue one and the bronze anodized. And I went with the bronze because it was just more to my liking. Then again, I haven't seen the blue version in real life. And it's quite possible that I could have enjoyed that one a lot as well. Might even pick it up in the future, who knows. So what we have here is a nice frame lock design. We have a overall length here of 8.8 inches with a blade length of 3.8 inches and a blade thickness of 0.157 inches. Like I mentioned, the blade steel used for this specific model is M390, which also happens to be my favorite steel for pretty much any folder, to be honest. Like I mentioned, this is a frame lock design. It's got some really nice opening and closing action, as always with knives made by Reate, or well, in 99.5% of the cases. The action is always going to be very, very nice. However, some folders are, with even better action than others, but you always get some good action. That is for sure. More or less, hydraulic or drop shotty. This one is not really drop shot, but it's really, really nice action regardless. So, taking a look here at the lockup. We have a really solid lockup here, about 25%, but it is definitely secure. There is absolutely no lock stick whatsoever, no blade play. Overall, really, really, really solid feeling to it, which we have come to expect from folders made by Reate. Flipper tab, of course. Only way to open this knife is using the flipper tab, and I'm fully okay with that, since, well, I do prefer flipper tabs over any other opening method or mechanism. We also have a pocket clip here. Some pretty good retention to it. This little ball thing here. Some may like it or enjoy it, others might not. In terms of centering, this knife is 100% centered. Spot on. In terms of other features here, we do have some light jimping going on here. I'm wearing gloves now, so the jimping will not, be super efficient. But to be honest, it is a very, very smooth jimping here. So it's more for looks than perhaps actual, practical use. Yeah. In terms of grinds, etc., we have a rounded spine here. Might be tricky to see, but it is a rounded spine. We got some interesting swedge grinds going on here up at the tip here. It might be difficult to catch it in the camera, but hopefully it is semi-visible. This is a pretty interesting, to me, blade shape, or blade design. Almost like a harpoonish swedge grind going on there. I would say that this blade shape is a practical design and not just something made for looks. Backspacer, bronze backspacer. We also have this lanyard hole here for those that enjoy putting lanyards on their knives. I do not, but it's always good to have an option for it. So I think that's going to be it for for the short overview of the K1. Quite a nice looking knife. Great ergos. I wear size 10 in gloves. Placing this knife here in my hand. See, there's a lot of handle to work with. There's also this finger groove here, which can be a tricky part for some people depending on size of your hand. But for me, it works very well. It is a very, comfortable grip here. Feels like it was pretty much made after my hand, which is, of course, a nice touch to it. So, K1. Let's move on to the K3 then, and we do have a couple of K3s to look at. This is what the K3 looks like with the Tanto version. There's also another version which is a bit more, well, how should I put it? A bit more normal looking. More of a classic, drop point design sort of. But I really fell in love with this semi-strange, crazy design. Which I think will also be, well, at least semi-functional for most cutting tasks. This too is a flipper tab frame lock design, much as like the K1. The specs for this one is, well, it's kind of close to the K1, to be honest here. The overall length of this one is 8.7 inches. Compared to the K1, which was 8.8 inches. We have a blade length of 3.9 inches compared to the K1 with a 3.9 on this, and the K1 has a 3.8 inches long blade. The blade thickness is identical to the K1. We have 0.157 inches. The blade steel, however, on this one is not M390. This blade is instead CTS 204P, which is sort of, well, very similar to M390. So pretty much, the same steel. One is made by Crucible, the other one is made by Carpenter USA or something like that. I'm not quite sure now. I keep forgetting what CTS, but I think it is something with Carpenter. Well, it's a US made steel. And the M390 is a European made steel. On this specific one, we have also titanium handles on all of the knives with some carbon fiber inlays. There are a few different versions of this knife, and instead of just describing the different versions, we're gonna take a look at them instead. But like I stated, frame lock. This one has a lockup of about, well, what can it be, 20-ish percent perhaps. Definitely pretty solid. Pocket clip with the same ball design here. Quite stiff retention, but I mean, it's not a problem really. We also have a lanyard hole here in the back. And we have some much more aggressive jimping than on the K1, and also a longer part with jimping here. We also got sort of a mini fuller here with some holes drilled in it. And then we have a really interesting Tanto-ish reverse Tanto compound design perhaps. I'm not even sure how to describe this blade. I have no knife that is, you know, anywhere near close this type of blade design. Very special design, no doubt about it. In terms of action, really nice closing action, really nice opening action. As we have come to expect, right? Yeah, I can sit like this for hours. Blade centering. Blade centering is 100%. It does not get better than this. No lock stick or anything, no blade play. A really solid piece of knife here. One thing that I would have liked with the K3, and that goes for all the different versions we're going to take a look at later here, is that I would have loved these inlays here to have been on the flip side here. There is some milling here, as you can see, and I think it would have been very fitting to put some inlays, carbon fiber or mokutai, depending on, you know, what you're going with on the shove side, and also maybe some inlay here in the pocket clip as well. I think it was a lost opportunity. I realized the knife would have been more expensive, but I think it would have been worth it to most people. The backspacer here is pretty cool as well. Now that I look at it, should probably mention it as well. So it is a, you know, a nice solid design. So let's take a look at some other versions without going over all the specs once again. So here we have a Damasteel version, the same handle config here as well with carbon fiber, but with a very nice, very nice looking Damasteel instead of the CTS 204P. It's not easy, you know, getting this to show in the camera, but I'm doing my very best here for you guys to get, you know, a general idea of what the Damasteel quality looks like. Once again, really nice opening and closing action, as always. Perfect centering, no lock stick, no blade play. Excellent craftsmanship. So let's take a look at something a bit more spectacular now, and that is the mokutai Damasteel version of the knife. So now we can try to, I mean, capturing this on camera is not easy, but this is, well, this is something else entirely. Probably the best looking multicolor mokutai I have ever seen. Just imagine having had it on this side as well, here on the pocket clip and on the milling here. Would have made quite a difference, because this side does look kind of gray and dull, especially compared to what we have going on here, right? Then we have the blade itself, Damasteel, a different pattern than what we just saw with the carbon fiber Damasteel K3. I think this is a bit nicer to me, more, you know, nice swirls of sort, really nice Damasteel here. Looks like, you know, like deep etching of sorts. So this is this is by far my most beautiful knife made by Reate. It is nothing less than spectacular. And action is drop shotty. Opening action is real nice. Closing action is well, it is pretty much amazing. Mokutai multicolor. Then we move on to another Mokutai version. This is the blue Mokutai version with Dama steel blade. Some people may prefer the blue over the multicolor. I personally am a fan of multicolor, but I do think that this blue is pretty darn stylish as well. And it goes well together with the Dama steel here. See if we can compare the two a bit closer. In terms of action, yeah, this one is also absolutely perfect. Fantastic opening and closing action. Centering 100% as always. No lock stick, no blade play. 100% solid. Let's see if we can do like this. It is not an easy task capturing these two inlays at the same time, but they are, you know, quite spectacular in their own respective ways, I would say. So let's move on to the K4 then, shall we? Let's start with this one. Here we have a, let's see if we're in focus. Here we have the K4 in M390 with some nice carbon fiber inlays and some blue screws to make a nice contrast to it. This is, I think, out of these three designs, I do think I like the K4 the most. The K3 is a bit more stylish looking. I'm definitely going to give it that. It has a much more unique blade design, etc. But the K4 is the knife that I, you know, well, if I could only keep one, or wait. If I could only keep one, then I would have perhaps kept my multicolor Mokutai K3 because that is a spectacular knife. But this is what, you know, got me sort of into Reate at one point. So anyways, let's take a quick look at the specs here for the K4, shall we? So we have a overall length of 8.5 inches, making it the smaller one of these three models. Like I stated before, the overall length of the K1 is 8.8, the overall length of the K3 is 8.7, and the K4 here is 8.5. So it is the smaller one, but not by, you know, large margin. We have a blade length of 3.9 inches, and in terms of blade length, it is the same blade length as the K3, and it's actually slightly longer than the K1, which is supposedly 3.8 inches. I'm actually going, you know, with the specs specified by DLT Trading, which is where I got my knives, but I hope they, you know, have everything, you know, correct. I do think that, you know, the blade length is, well, depending on how you measure, since this has, you know, a recurve, etc. Well, anyways, I would say that all of these knives are kind of, you know, equal in size. That much I can say. Blade thickness is 0.157 inches, which is the same as the other two models. But we can see that there is a swedge grind starting at the very back here, so you only have the full thickness here, as seen on this area here, and there's no jimping going on this specific model. You do have some jimping here in the actual titanium scales here. As you can see, it has a nice recurve. I am kind of fond of recurves. I think they are very, very stylish. Sure, I mean, from a sharpening perspective, yeah, it's not quite as simple as sharpening, more of a straight edge, but not, super tough either, I'd say. Recurve, a bit of compound grind here, nice wedges. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on this blade as well. Not quite as much as on the K3 Tanto, but still some really nice grind lines here. Flipper tab, or flipper of course, really nice action. This specific version is in M390, seen up there, but the other two are actually RWL34, which is a steel that I have kind of a limited experience with. I do prefer M390, but well, from run to run they use different steels, and that's just the way it is, I'd say. So this specific one has, or did I already mention it, yeah, the carbon fiber inlays, and some additional, milling going on here, some lines that do add some details. We also have some, well, I'm not even sure if we're gonna call that, some additional details, probably pinning the backspacer in some way. Let's see here with the pocket clip here. It is kinda stiff. Yeah, you can move it a bit, but it's kinda stiff, and no ball in this pocket clip here. For better or worse, depending on who you might ask. So, ergos, well, I wear size 10 in gloves. This also comes with sort of a finger groove here. It fits my hand absolutely perfectly. I love the feeling of this knife in my hand. Did we mention we should have probably done that with the K3 here. I never put this one in my hand, but never talked ergos. But the ergos on this one is really nice as well. You got this, with the jimping and sort of like a, I don't know what we're gonna call this, but a place to place your thumb, which makes it, quite nice and quite ergonomical. So, back to the K4 again, shall we? Let's take a look at the centering here. Absolutely perfect blade centering, as with all the others. No blade play and zero lock stick. Overall, a really nice, solid, useful and comfortable design with that nice recurve to it. So let's take a look at the other ones here. I will say that this one in M390, it has, the regular grained carbon fiber here. The next one we're gonna take a look at here it looks sort of identical, right? But this one has marble carbon fiber instead, which some people might prefer over, the regular carbon fiber. Aside from that, the handle is identical. But here we can see that the steel used for this one is not M390, it is in fact RWL34, which is a good steel by all means, but it is a steel that I have limited experience with, and knowing that I really do have this thing for M390, I would of course have preferred this one to be an M390. But yeah, not a bad steel by any means. So these two knives are very much alike, but also not. Marble carbon, regular carbon fiber, RVL, M390. I wonder if the blade finish is a bit different as well. No, in terms of finishes, they look quite the same as well. So this one, the RVL34 here, blade centering on that one is also spot on, 100% centered. No blade play, no lock stick, nice opening action. Closing action is nice as well, although not as nice as this one and some others. Then again, I mean, it is brand new, it's gonna break in, it is smooth, but it's actually not, you know, dropping shut. You have to give it a bit of a push to help it. Last but not least, well, I mean, it is the same model, right? Is the K4 here in RVL 34 as well, but with black titanium scales and marbled carbon fiber inlays. Let's take a closer look here at the handle. You know, I would have loved them to have gone with this more, you know, silvery. Let's see. You see the lines here. They're quite, you know, distinct. I realized I went for, you know, a complete darker tone here, but it would have been a nice contrast with some, you know, not really white lines, but silver lines, etc. than these black lines here. Action is nice, opening action is great, closing action is pretty much drop shutty, almost. I do have to give it a little bit of a push here. But like I said, this is brand new out of the box. Centering on this one is perfect. Absolutely perfect centering. No blade play, no lock stick. It's a nice knife. Would have been even nicer in M390 perhaps, and some more, you know, silver-like lines going on here. But it is still very stylish knife. All of these knives are, in my opinion, very, very stylish. All of the absolute highest quality. So I think this kind of, you know, concludes my my Reate K series overview of sorts. There are of course other variations, handle materials, etc. Or not materials, but colors. I never mentioned it with this one, but you can of course get bronze, blue, some other colors. There is a lot of different configurations to pick from. But these are, in terms of the K series, this is what I am currently in possession of. I would like, you know, a K4 with some Damas steel inlays would have been pretty nice. I've seen that, but not available yet. But I know that DLT Trading is waiting for another shipment of Reate, so who knows what will be in that one. But like I said, this is probably it for now, and well, I hope you have enjoyed taking a closer look at these 3 different models and some of the different configurations which they are made in.